We used ponchos, taking advantage of the weather conditions, moving through the fog and gloom so that the enemy wouldn't notice us.
And they dug in at the firing points, at the firing lines. There was a blizzard, and visibility wasn't very good, so there weren't really any drones. Right, we had already studied the routes we would take. We chose more or less intact tree lines, so that if, in case of a drone attack or anything else, we could find cover somewhere.
Russian troops say they have taken control of the settlement of Petrovska in the Zaporizhia region, describing a slow, grinding advance carried out building by building. Assault units say the capture of the village is meant to open the way for further operations deeper into the region. In field footage, an assault group commander known by the call sign Max says his unit established a staging area immediately after securing the settlement. According to him, the operation was designed not as a final objective, but as a launch point for what comes next. Another commander, using the call sign Grom, describes the method behind the advance. He says troops moved in pairs or trios, timing each movement to fog, snow, or rain, conditions that reduce visibility for drones.
Our assault operations were supported by units like EW artillery, tube artillery, and UAVs, which helped us accomplish our assigned tasks of liberating the settlement. We used ponchos, taking advantage of the weather conditions, moving through the fog and gloom so that the enemy wouldn't notice us. And they dug in at the firing points, at the firing lines. There was a blizzard, and visibility wasn't very good, so there weren't really any drones. Right, we had already studied the routes we would take. We chose more or less intact tree lines, so that if, in case of a drone attack or anything else, we could find cover somewhere. They didn't understand at all that we had come there.
So actually, we arrived at that location and spent a couple of nights there, and then the assignments started. They provided us with specific points that we had to visit, to observe, and to thoroughly scout out what was present there. We were the very first ones to enter those areas. Well, and we, swept through some basements and provided intel that these specific points could be secured by the remaining assault groups, so the guys could move in and establish a foothold. It meant that it was possible to live there. The shelters were quite strong and sturdy.
The weather was favorable to us. Thanks to the weather and I suppose our good fortune, we were able to achieve victory over the enemy. We took the village of Toretsk, all thanks to our battalion commander, call sign Dunai. He very skillfully planned the approaches, the taking of certain strategic points, specific enemy positions, and thanks to the company commander, he set the task correctly. We went with the platoon and completed the mission. They arrived, skillfully established their positions, assigned targets, maintained observation, amassed their strength, and then repelled the enemy. An evacuation team was operating, strategically positioned at specific points along our route, arriving promptly to provide aid and transport individuals to a secure location. From there, they were then evacuated in small groups, gradually to the hospital. They didn't drag their feet on this. There were absolutely no problems with it. Our evacuation worked very efficiently.
While ground forces push forward, the air war has escalated sharply. Ukraine says Russia launched its most devastating winter strike so far, firing more than 450 drones and over 70 missiles in a single wave, targeting energy infrastructure across the country. The timing is striking. NATO's Secretary General was in Kyiv as the strikes unfolded, reinforcing Western backing, even as Ukraine's power grid came under renewed pressure during freezing temperatures. Against this backdrop of intensifying combat, envoys from Ukraine, Russia, and the United States are preparing to meet in Abu Dhabi. The talks are officially aimed at exploring pathways to end the war, but the battlefield momentum tells a different story.
It needs to change. Our team continues to work closely with the American side to ensure that real, tangible solutions for peace can be effectively scaled up. Today we held a very productive meeting with our official delegation. All of the team members are already on their way to the location. The meetings are scheduled to take place. They will happen throughout this Wednesday and Thursday. It will not only be a trilateral format that we use, but we will also have our own bilateral format with the United States of America.
There are things to agree on. There's content that needs further work. Regarding security guarantees, we are ready. On Ukraine's recovery and future development, government officials are working. Our teams are actively involved. It is important that at this time, America also resolutely supports dialogue, all available opportunities for dialogue, and accordingly works with the Russian side so that Russian strikes, so that Russian terror does not disrupt what can be achieved.
I want to add one more point. Ukraine stands in solidarity with all nations who deeply value their freedom and are genuinely ready to fight for it. The entire world is observing what is currently happening in Iran, the horrific number of killings, and how the Iranian regime has consistently invested its resources in spreading conflict and violence throughout the region and across the world. Ukraine will not forget a single one of the thousands of Shahed drones that are striking our cities and our villages and our very own people.
Of the negotiating team. An agreement has already been reached for a meeting, a trilateral one, a meeting to be held at the appropriate level. This upcoming meeting will take place next week, exactly as we have planned, on Wednesday and Thursday in the United Arab Emirates, just like it was last time. I have just now finished speaking with Rustem Umerov regarding these matters. For tomorrow morning, I have scheduled a special meeting to agree on the framework of the conversation and to prepare everything necessary. By Monday evening, the entire team will already be on their way to the location of the negotiations.
We are counting on the fact that the American side will also be equally active in this regard, and in particular, this applies to the specific measures for de-escalation and the reduction of military strikes. A great deal depends on what the American side is going to be able to accomplish in the end, so that the people will have full confidence in both the entire process and the final results, without a doubt.
Undoubtedly, today's Russian strike on a bus in the Petrovska region is a crime, a demonstrative crime, which once again clearly shows that Russia alone is responsible for this escalation. Evil must be stopped.
The second round of the working group's efforts on armored footwear safety was scheduled for last Sunday. However, additional coordination of the three parties' schedules was required. And it's currently Wednesday, Thursday. The second round is indeed going to take place. It will be held in Abu Dhabi, and we can absolutely confirm that. There will not be any specific details provided here today. You have already heard the general conceptual assessments from both of the sides, from Mr. Dmitriev and from Mr. Rudkov, regarding the fact that these were quite positive frameworks and very constructive conversations for everyone involved. But on the whole, you are well aware that Mr. Dmitriev is currently leading the activities of this particular working group focused on economic cooperation. And so essentially it is these specific matters that fall primarily within the professional jurisdiction of our colleague Mr. Dmitriev. Zelensky is proposing to establish some contacts. Putin has already stated that such meetings are indeed possible in Moscow. This particular position, it remains unchanged and it is quite consistent. We are definitely maintaining our openness for further negotiations, and as you can see, work is being carried out through the various channels of the specialized working groups. We certainly welcome this, and we stand ready to continue this work even further in the interest of achieving a peaceful settlement in Ukraine. This is a very complex, multifaceted process. On some issues, undoubtedly, we have come closer because discussions and talks took place, and on some issues, it's easier to find common ground. There are issues where it's harder to find common ground. There, unfortunately, we cannot yet confirm convergence.